I was wed to the heir of the Prime Minister's household. Yet on our wedding night, it was the current emperor who shared the chamber with me. They all thought I was unaware of the truth, simply because on that very night, my eyes remained bound by a silk ribbon. A fiery red cloth swayed ostentatiously before my eyes. For several hours, my eyes grew sore. Yet no one came to take me away. All I could hear was the shouting outside the house during the hour of the boar. The sounds of congratulations faded away and eventually disappeared. My husband Louis arrived fashionably late. Although I couldn't see anything, I could tell from the noise as Louis entered that his steps were steady and composed. It was clear that he hadn't been drinking at all. Naturally, he refrained from drinking. After all, I was not the one in his heart. Louis accepted the handkerchief I handed to him. And then my vision was obscured once again. Caught off guard, a bright red silk ribbon was tied around me. I thought Louis intended to humiliate me. Our engagement was a gift from the Empress Dowager. Louis had no choice but to consummate the marriage with me. However, if he were to truly engage in such intimacy with me, it would mean completely betraying the one he loved. Louis must have been unable to overcome the barrier in his heart, which is why he chose to cover my face. After tying it securely, Louis did not proceed immediately. Since it has come to this, why bother waiting until I lie down? You felt a faint trace of sleepiness. The belt was suddenly undone. I was instantly wide awake. I trembled slightly. The person pressing down on me seemed unwilling to see me wearing this red wedding dress. Because I heard the sound of fabric tearing, I felt a slight chill, but after a moment it no longer felt cold. Every inch of my skin, after being deliberately kissed, started to grow warm and flush with heat. I felt a bit uneasy. The hand resting beside my pillow grew slightly stiff. Louis extended his right hand, intertwining his fingers with mine, but I became even more tense. The jade ring pressing between our fingers conveyed a familiar, smooth and gentle touch to me. The man sharing intimacy with me at this moment is not Louis. I endured it and extended a hand, letting my fingers graze the strands of hair draped down his back, and then slowly moved upward along the way, until I felt the jade hairpin I had personally gifted. The one consummating with me turned out to be His Majesty. I tried my best to hold back, in order to stop myself from calling out, "Brother Emperor." Given the current situation, it is truly absurd, but even if the whole world says so, I am the one who must not speak of it. Not the Emperor's biological younger sister, but someone who grew up alongside the Emperor. When I was 7 years old, my biological father, the Duke of Wei, died in battle. My mother was about to give birth at that time. Upon hearing the devastating news, she was overcome with fear and shock, losing both her life and the child. The Empress of that time, now the Empress Dowager, knowing that I was an orphaned cousin of hers, she specifically took me in and raised me under her care. Living together with the other princesses, I naturally addressed the other princes as elder brothers. The sixth prince, Xiaojing, had the coldest temperament. Yet every time he saw me, he would always offer a small smile. When I reached the age of maturity, Xiaojing had turned 22. He had already ascended the throne. In his free time he still acted the same as before. He would call me to his study. He taught me how to practice calligraphy. He had me play the zither. But one time, I quietly went in. Then I covered his eyes from behind. Xiaojing immediately recognized it was me, but he wouldn't let me loosen my grip on Xiaojing's hand. Slowly, he reached for the hand I had placed over his eyes, and just like that, he lingered close to me. Then the Empress Dowager happened to arrive. It was clear he wasn't very pleased. After that, I stopped going to Xiaojing's study. Every day, I stayed in the Empress Dowager's palace copying Buddhist scriptures. Once His Majesty came by, I still hid in the back and didn't come out. Quietly, I listened as Xiaojing spoke about two matters. First, there was a disturbance caused by examinees in Pang province. He needs to go and take a look. Second, they want to designate Wei Yi as the Empress, to take the position of the central palace. I almost shattered the inkstone, feeling an immense sense of panic inside. The only thing is, as the Empress Dowager, I agreed to the first matter. Naturally, the second matter is something I cannot agree to. Feels too rushed. Let's set it aside for now. But when Xiaojing left the capital, the imperial decree of marriage bestowed by Louis and me was announced. No matter how quickly Xiaojing hurried back, it had already been proclaimed throughout the entire capital. There was no room for regret. And so now I find myself lying in the bridal chamber of the Prime Minister's estate. But I never expected that the groom's intentions, Xiaojing, would remain completely silent. Yet the restless desire was conveyed through increasingly heavy breathing. It really was him, and I grew increasingly uneasy. Yet, in the repeated moments of intimacy, I gradually lost clarity of thought. Xiaojing had left at some unknown time. When I woke up, it was Louis lying beside me. The next morning, after finishing my grooming, Louis and I, one after the other, got into the carriage heading to Thangxian, and then we sat in silence facing each other, only by glancing at him when he is off guard can one catch a glimpse of some clues on Louis's refined face. He seemed uneasy as well, yet he still chose to stay loyal to the emperor, and to remain true to his own love. We went to the emperor's palace, but were informed that he was occupied and could not meet us. I was relieved that he was busy, and let out a breath of relief, then went directly to see the Empress Dowager. After meeting with the Empress Dowager, Louis was allowed to leave the palace, but I was asked to stay behind. I heard that the 9th princess also wanted to see me. I have always been on good terms with the 9th princess, so naturally I agreed without hesitation. However, when the eunuch led me to the study room, I immediately sensed that something was off. The 9th princess always gets a headache just at the sight of words. She absolutely dislikes coming to the study room. The one who wishes to see me is someone else. That someone, of course, is His Majesty. When I caught sight of Xiaojing sitting alone in the distance, my legs almost gave out beneath me. It was rare to see Xiaojing in a crimson robe embroidered with gold. If not for his usual demeanor and posture, I might not have recognized him at first glance. I walked over slowly, forcing myself to suppress the unease in my heart, and greeted Xiaojing as I always did. May the elder brother remain in good health. Xiaojing had been quietly reading a book earlier. At this moment, upon hearing the words, he didn't bother to lift his head to look at me. He lazily turned to the next page instead. When Xiaojing stayed silent, even his well-defined brows and handsome eyes carried a touch of coldness. I couldn't understand why he was ignoring me. The bride has arrived. Xiaojing's tone was layered with a subtle winding cadence. It seemed to conceal underlying emotions. His Majesty claimed that he was busy today and wouldn't see anyone, which made it quite a task to find him. He had no intention of meeting others, and even less desire to meet you. Xiaojing casually closed the book and finally raised his hand to look at me. Then why did you summon me here? To punish you, as Xiaojing's words fell. I suddenly recalled the moment he learned of the imperial decree. I only glanced back once. He asked me if I was willing to marry Lu Yi. I said I was willing. Now Xiaojing says he wants to punish me. With a sudden thud, I immediately knelt before him, but Xiaojing, quick as lightning, moved his boots slightly forward to support my knees, preventing them from touching the ground. I didn't dare to stand up on my own, but kneeling on Xiaojing's shoes is truly inappropriate. Elder brother, I am seeking Xiaojing's help. Xiaojing did not move his boots away. He softly said, What is the meaning of this? You have always been pampered and indulged. To make you kneel like this, elder brother said he wanted to punish me. I am here to accept my punishment. Xiaojing extended his hand, motioning for me to rise. When I held his hand again, a strange sensation flooded through my entire being. Xiaojing was unaware that I knew him far better than he could ever imagine. In an instant, Xiaojing exerted a little force and pulled me to my feet. Then, with a burst of strength, he placed me onto his lap. If you kneel for too long, your knees are bound to bruise. My knees don't hurt. Standing will be just fine. Xiaojing's tone softened, yet the faint breath brushing past my ear still carried a coolness. As a child, I always loved being held by my royal brother. Why is it that after getting married, you must grow distant from me? I waved my hands repeatedly. I wouldn't dare. Xiaojing slightly tilted his chin upward, accidentally brushing against my temple in passing, yet insisted on not letting me avoid you further. My siblings and I now have to hide just to spend time together. It wasn't necessary to say that to me in such a way. I was so nervous about being punished that I nearly tore my sleeves apart. It's up to my royal brother to decide. I must punish you, so say it. What exactly did Louis do to torment you last night? A fleeting expression passed through Xiaojing's phoenix-like eyes. My face instantly turned burning hot. This overwhelming embarrassment consumed me. Even my eyes felt moist and warm. What's wrong with thee? I was only joking. Xiaojing lowered his gaze and looked at me, his expression lifting slightly. The sleeve embroidered with golden threads brushed lightly under my eyelid. The tail of the crane on the sleeve became slightly damp. I loosened my grip a bit and quietly stared at Xiaojing's beautiful and luxurious sleeve hem. Xiaojing noticed this, extending 3 fingers, lightly pinching the cuff. He asked me if the red looked good on him. Unmatched in beauty, I answered honestly. Does it resemble a wedding robe? Xiaojing asked, coaxing me. How is the wedding robe compared to the imperial garments? Xiaojing let out a small laugh. He opened a small box on the table with one hand. Taking out a bracelet, I slipped it onto my wrist. While putting it on, said that you got married yesterday. But I didn't even attend the ceremony. I really wish I could have seen what you looked like in your wedding attire. I glanced at the brocade dress I was wearing and replied, it looks the same as now. No, it's not the same, wear it and show me. I felt a little uneasy. Oh, the wedding attire is gone. Xiaojing leaned in and whispered. Why is it gone? How did it disappear? Don't you know? But I don't dare to say it out loud, thinking about how to put it into words. The wedding attire was burned by the candle flame. Really, is that a bad omen? It seems your marriage truly cannot be considered blessed by the heavens. I nodded in agreement. Yes, it's indeed an ominous sign. Since that's the case, then remember this. We must not walk the same path. Easily approachable, Xiaojing gradually guided me step by step. I would never speak to him in that way. What I have done with the emperor and you must not do with him. When Xiaojing speaks like this, I'm so embarrassed I could die. Yet his attempts to disguise it are clumsy. After he noticed, he stopped teasing you. We'll spar another day. The 9th princess did come to find you. However, I sent her away. You can visit the palace another day to see her. And while you're at it, pay a visit to the Empress Dowager. Be sure to come to me last. Is that clear? I fled the palace in a hurry. Then I returned to the rear residence, exchanging glances with Lu Yi, each letting out a sigh. Yet after sighing, we still had to maintain the appearance of a couple in public. Having been married for only a few days, we were urged by the couple from the Prime Minister's residence to visit the temple for blessings, and the blessings we sought were for children. The couple from the Prime Minister's residence were naturally harmonious and united. Their family was peaceful and happy. So, as they knelt on the prayer cushions, they gave thanks to the kindness of the Buddha. Deeply devout. Until Louis and I knelt down, the atmosphere subtly shifted. We both understood that when praying to the gods, it is enough to silently make wishes in your heart. Louis and I both worried the Bodhisattva might respond. We wished we could speak louder. O Bodhisattva above, if you grant me offspring, will undoubtedly regain great glory. Bodhisattva's blessings have brought us this far. I am no longer afraid of offending the divine. I only fear that Xiaojing Rui might truly make me conceive. Although the Prime Minister and his wife found it unusual, seeing how sincere we were in our words, they felt it inappropriate to say anything in front of the Buddha. Later, the Prime Minister and his wife went east to see the spring. Louis and I only wanted to leave this heartbreaking place as quickly as possible. When I realized someone was calling my name, the 9th princess had already appeared at the steps. She gasped for breath and laughed, saying, "Finally, I found you. I feel like I'm suffocating in the palace. The emperor has finally allowed you to leave." The 9th princess nodded and said, "I told him I was coming to see you. He sent some people to accompany me. That way I was able to leave the palace." That Xiaojing must have known about today's outing for seeking blessings. The 9th princess didn't notice my troubled expression. She continued to chatter away, saying, "Since we're already here, I also want to seek a marriage match. After all, my royal brother said, if I don't have someone I fancy, he would find one for me. I absolutely don't want him to choose for me. His own marriage has been troubled, and now he wants to make my life difficult too." I could barely resist the urge to cover the 9th princess's mouth. "Please stop talking. When has His Majesty's marriage ever been troubled?" "Nonsense." The 9th princess let out a soft sigh. However, her thoughts quickly shifted to something else. Oh, that's right. In 3 days, as usual, the noble family's young heirs will hold a contest. During the archery and pitchpot games, keep me company, will you? You've just married the Chancellor's son. You should come along as well. I turned to look at Louis. The 9th princess invited you to watch the performance. But Louis seemed to still be caught up in the sorrow of coming with me to seek a child, and didn't seem to hear what we were saying. He went to speak with the 9th princess on my behalf. After the 9th princess left, I initially thought Xiaojing, knowing about the matter of seeking a child, would be displeased and find an excuse to summon me to the palace. Unexpectedly, there was not a sound from him for 3 days. It was only when Louis and I went to the appointment together, in a conspicuous spot on the field, the emperor's carriage was suddenly and prominently present. No matter what, I had to muster the courage to greet him. Otherwise, it would be considered a breach of etiquette. Louis quickened his pace, turning our walk into one where he was ahead and I followed behind. Xiaojing's figure became unmistakably clear within my line of sight. Suddenly, someone called out to stop me and Louis. Isn't this the Prime Minister's son and daughter-in-law? I couldn't visit personally to offer my congratulations earlier due to some matters. Now that I see you today, I wish you both a lifetime of happiness together. May you be blessed with many children and much joy. Louis's expression appeared somewhat stiff. I also felt quite uneasy. The tone seemed almost as if afraid Xiaojing might not hear it. I have no idea what Xiaojing might think of this. It felt just like the kind of thing someone would say while offering congratulations. I can't quite figure out the dynamic between Louis and me. Why one of us seems as grief-stricken as if they lost a husband, and the other as if they lost a wife. When Louis and I finally stood before Xiaojing, Louis kept his head lowered, and I dared not meet his gaze. Dispense with formalities. Xiaojing's voice was icy and distant. Royal brother, you seem to be in quite the leisurely mood today. I took the initiative to speak to Xiaojing. Hearing this, Xiaojing gave me a brief glance. After a moment, a faint smile appeared. Should be fine. I guess Xiaojing lifted his gaze to glance at the sky. Then his eyes shifted to Louis. He remarked that the weather was nice today. He paused for a moment. How about you two consider a divorce? Louis was momentarily stunned. Feigning a casual demeanor, he stepped forward to pour wine for Xiaojing. Your Majesty hasn't drunk yet, nor are you intoxicated. Why use me as an example? Laugh the whole time. I then continued to speak to Louis. His Majesty noticed you haven't appeared for a long time, not even getting a chance to win any recognition. So he arranged this on purpose. Why don't you quickly show your disdain? Louis promptly responded to Xiaojing. I will go at once, Your Majesty. At the table it was just Xiaojing and me left. He merely let his hands rest while gazing at the wine glass. As he reached out, it appeared as if he intended to pick up the glass. In the next moment, his fingertip pressed down slightly, tipping the glass over. The wine trickled down the edge of the table, staining the hem of his clothes. There were many eyes and ears present in the room. It wouldn't have been appropriate for me to step in directly, so instead, I handed over a handkerchief to help with the spill. Xiaojing took it from me. He gave a few quick swipes at the mess, but in the end, he didn't bother returning the handkerchief to me. Did I just ask for your help to speak on his behalf? I kept observing Xiaojing's expression closely. Is that how you question Louis? Even he wouldn't be able to answer that. Fine, then you answer it. I was momentarily confused. If we part ways, should I inform the Empress Dowager? Is it because the meals at the Chancellor's residence are too tough to chew for me? Or is it that the garden lacks the grand chairs of the palace? I just don't like it. Speaking of the Empress Dowager, I couldn't help but recall what he said to me when he was at Xiaojingli's palace. After all, I have raised you for several years, and arranged your marriage into the Chancellor's household. Naturally, I feel a deep reluctance in my heart. But the words the Emperor said that day, you also overheard them from behind. He intends to make you Empress, but your temperament is far too gentle and quiet. If you were to take the position of the central palace, in the future there will be a heavy price to pay. Actually, if the Emperor said he wanted to make you a consort, I wouldn't have a single objection. But looking at the Emperor's determination right now, no matter what title he gives you first, within 6 months he will ultimately hand over the seal to you. When I came back to my senses, I noticed Xiaojing looking at me with a subtle smile. Did I say something wrong just now? Xiao Jing shook his head and replied. A casual conversation unfolded. Is there really a right or wrong in this? As he stood up, the hem of his garment got damp. He was heading off to change clothes. After Xiao Jing left, I realized he had left behind his jade pendant. It must have accidentally fallen off while he was wiping it earlier. An imperial item like this shouldn't be left unattended. I picked up the jade pendant and thought of going to find the royal carriage. All right, hand this item over to the chief eunuch. The spot where the imperial carriage came to a halt was rather secluded. I quietly made my way over here and unexpectedly ran into Lu Yi and the woman he loves. Lu Yi seemed to appear somewhat disheartened. The woman Lu Yi loves is the daughter of a fourth-rank official, born of a concubine. His marriage had been delayed for a long time because his family was unwilling to propose a match. However, if it were a remarriage, this union would very likely come to fruition. I suddenly had a deeper understanding of Lu Yi's thoughts. He was willing on the night of the wedding to help Xiao Jing carry out that absurd act, because he was certain that my relationship with him wouldn't last long. Lost in my scattered thoughts, I unknowingly found myself in front of the imperial carriage. First, I signaled the eunuch not to alarm the person inside, and then I returned the jade pendant. The eunuch remained silent, but the moment he handed the jade pendant inside, I was immediately taken into custody. You were slower than I had anticipated. Xiao Jin's clothing appeared slightly disheveled. The belt was loosely fastened, barely tied in place. It looked far from proper or composed. In an instant I realized what was going on. Quickly I lowered my head. It was the emperor brother who deliberately left behind the jade pendant. While walking along the path, did you happen to notice anything? Xiao Jin was at a loss for words, silent and distant. I've come to understand another layer of the case. A concubine-born daughter of a fourth-rank official would typically not be invited to such an occasion. Yet she showed up against all odds. Xiao Jin seems to constantly want to remind me not to harbor any romantic thoughts about Lu Yi. After all, he is unaware of Wei Wan's situation. But I already know the truth, which is why I am concerned. The moment my heart acknowledges a physical bond with Lu Yi, feelings will gradually develop over time, especially with the matter of seeking help provoking him. I have walked this path all the way here. Your eyes were only focused on watching for where the imperial presence might appear. Didn't see anything at all. Feigning ignorance, Xiao Jing adjusted the broken pieces of the jade pendant. I don't have the patience to pretend with you. Just saying one thing. Back then, I didn't want to go against the Empress Dowager's decree, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't later find ways to overturn this decree. I recalled what happened a few days ago. I couldn't help but ask if you were upset. Xiao Jing remained silent. He merely said to sit a bit closer. I won't bite. I cautiously moved half an inch closer. Then Xiao Jing's presence casually enveloped me. Just kidding, suddenly I was pulled into his arms. I instinctively struggled twice, but I was held even tighter. Don't move. Someone might overhear us. Is Xiao Jing worried about this? But why does it sound like the more he speaks, the more delighted he becomes? Xiao Jing indeed seems quite pleased. The soft chuckle he let out brushed against my neck. It was warm and enticing. Stay still just like this. Otherwise, if people find out, you'll be utterly embarrassed again. But no one would dare disturb the emperor's presence. Makes sense. Xiao Jing released me and extended his arms. Stretched his arms. But you wouldn't want me to remain in such a disheveled state forever either. After focusing for a closer look, it was only then that I realized, due to Xiao Jing's dramatic movements just now, my clothes had become so disheveled that they were hardly presentable. Although I knew no one would dare to disturb the sovereign, when I unfastened Xiao Jing's belt, always tremble uncontrollably. Yet Xiao Jing seemed to really appreciate my clumsiness. I happened to look up. I would always end up meeting his gaze. It was filled with an impeccable expression. Xiao Jing smiled lightly and said, "You and I now resemble a married couple." I stopped my actions in a fit of defiance. Is the royal brother intentionally trying to corner me? If I answer no, it would be going against the imperial will. If I answer yes, it would be deeply disrespectful to you. Xiao Jing actually seems to enjoy my temper tantrums. He gave a small smile. He picked up the jade pendant and brushed my ear with its fragments. He only stopped when I begged for mercy. I won't tease you anymore. Let me just tell you one thing. You are not allowed to call me Imperial Brother again. Address me as Your Majesty instead. I was a bit bewildered. Xiaojing ignored me, but he didn't retract his command. I still need to help him tidy up the dragon robe. As I fastened the jade pendant to the belt, a eunuch's voice suddenly came from outside the curtain saying, Your Majesty, today's prize is the young master from the Prime Minister's family. Xiaojing slightly curved his lips and said, Have I rested for so long? I muttered softly to myself. It's been a long time. And once we reached the Prime Minister's residence, only then did I realize the prize for the competition was an exquisite pearl hairpin. Its origin is not ordinary. The Empress Dowager once wore this when she was crowned Empress. Louis finds no use for this hairpin. Naturally, he would choose to give it away. It doesn't matter who he decides to gift it to. I never expected he would give it to me. I was truly surprised. I made sure it was indeed meant for me. Louis explained, first because you deserve it, and second as a keepsake. As for the latter reason, I felt a bit puzzled. Louis said he had just decided to enter the palace tomorrow to meet His Majesty. I was startled. Are you planning to? Louis gave a faint smile. Delaying further would be of no benefit to either of us. It might lead to offending the Empress Dowager. Let's discuss this matter later. I'll go and talk to His Majesty first. He spoke as if it were a simple matter. But I felt uneasy and nervous. Even the 9th princess thought that Louis and Xiao Jingrui were perfectly in sync. The princess felt that Louis and Xiao Jingrui hit it off effortlessly. However, the truth is, Xiao Jingrui turned down Lu Yi's request. After Louis left the palace, we stared at each other in silence for a long time. In recent days I first entered the palace. I only occasionally hear about things from inside the palace. Some lukewarm news was conveyed. Until the day my father, Duke of Wei, took over. A piece of news spread quickly without warning. Xiao Jing issued an edict allowing the Duke of Wei to enter the Imperial Ancestral Temple. This is what Rong said. No matter what, I must visit the palace tomorrow. At night, Louis went to sleep in the study again. I slept alone and found it rather comfortable. Sleepiness came over me quickly. In a state between waking and sleeping, I vaguely heard some sounds nearby. Get up and come talk to me. Don't ask me, I was in a daze. I couldn't hear anything clearly. I even turned over in bed. Are you expecting me to wait until dawn? I regained about 70% of my clarity. When I was fully awake, I sprang up like a carp leaping out of water, caught under Xiao Jing's intense gaze. The whole time I couldn't help but feel awkward. Xiao Jing moved closer like a serpent. The smile in her phoenix-like eyes flickered in and out of view. You don't seem surprised at all by my presence at the Prime Minister's residence, not even the slightest bit startled. I'm just not fully awake yet. Could it be that you know something? Like the fact that this isn't my first visit to the Prime Minister's residence. Xiao Jing hesitated and replied ambiguously. Such a tricky question. Of course I won't answer it. So I lay back down again, and then turned over. Tightly shut my eyes with effort, thinking if he holds me accountable, I'll just say, I thought I was dreaming. But Xiao Jing didn't seem to intend to hold me accountable. He only used the pad of his finger to lightly touch my ear twice. I suddenly feel that it might be best for you and Louis to part ways, after he has gained some reputation. Just as a severe drought hits the south, I will appoint him as a deputy to assist with disaster relief. The supervisor will rise in 5 days. Let's see if he can achieve anything noteworthy. A searing warmth from Xiao Jing's fingertip brushed against my ear. My heartbeat quickened uncontrollably in response. Xiao Jing let out a soft laugh. Feeling shy again, aren't you? Not listening, not listening. Not paying attention, not paying attention. A faint, delicate fragrance drifted over. I became aware of it. Xiao Jing's upper body had completely leaned forward, his face drawing closer. Peng Li's profile was merely inches away from mine. 3 days later, the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet. Make sure to remember to attend. No excuses of feigning illness are allowed. Also, when you get up tomorrow morning, you will see new clothes and jewelry on the table. Don't forget to wear them. I couldn't help but nod twice in agreement. Now you can't deny it. Xiao Jing noted that grand banquets always require officials' families to appear alongside them. The wives of officials always accompany their husbands on such occasions. Louis couldn't get out of it either. While in the carriage, he even took the initiative to make small talk. Your new dress looks stunning. I think it looks beautiful too. I almost want to step out of the carriage and do a little twirl. Then the princess would pester me again, asking, which embroidery maid made this one? Naturally, it was Louis in the palace who spoke without thinking. After entering the banquet, the Empress Dowager first called me to the seat of honor. She carefully inquired about my recent situation, then bestowed quite a few gifts upon me. She even asked me and Louis to move a little closer. In doing so, the distance between me and Xiaojing also shortened. Xiaojing noticed this and cast us a brief, indifferent glance, but the atmosphere remained composed and proper, until a dancer suddenly pulled out a dagger, directly aimed at the seat where King Rong was sitting. It's unclear if she offended someone, and was therefore pushed out to meet her doom, or if King Rong, the notorious libertine, once again acted as a heartless cad. In any case, the banquet fell into utter chaos due to this betrayal. King Rong happened to be seated right next to Louis and me. Because of this situation, I became even more on edge, wishing I could hide under the table. But before I could make it under the table, as I remained standing, I had no idea who gave me a push from behind, causing me to crash directly into the tip of the blade. When the blade pierced into my shoulder blade, there was only Louis behind me, looking at the auspicious beast. I took the stab for Louis. As the blood splattered, all I could think about was what a shame it was. This beautiful outfit really couldn't be shown off. When I was still clear-headed, I saw the envy in the eyes of the gathered officials' wives. Seemed they were thinking, the newlyweds truly have a deep bond. When Louis instinctively caught me in his arms, I was already less conscious by then. My eyes half open and half closed, I caught sight of a pair of gold-threaded boots swiftly approaching. It was Xiaojing who carried me back to the palace. He sent Louis away from the palace and back to his residence. I was left alone in the palace, with the imperial physicians treating me day and night. All of this was told to me by the 9th princess, because ever since I woke up I haven't seen Xiaojing. He has never come to my hall. The 9th princess peeled an orange for me, while saying you wouldn't believe it if you hadn't seen our royal brother. He was absolutely furious, although the assassination attempt was quite upsetting. What truly enraged him was that you shielded Louis from the knife. Hearing this, even the orange I was eating lost its flavor. Louis happened to be right behind me, but you weren't supposed to be standing so far up front. It was so chaotic back then. Someone pushed me. It hurt so much, there's no way I'm taking a hit for someone else. The 9th princess hesitated. So, does that mean they all misunderstood? She nodded firmly. The 9th princess let out a faint sigh. Then doesn't that mean my royal brother got upset for nothing? After you were carried back here, the dress on your body was taken off, so that clean nightclothes could be put on you. Then when a young palace maid intended to throw away the bloodstained dress, she was stopped by the emperor. What happened to him? Your dress got ruined, the 9th princess said. He was absolutely furious, and I felt incredibly distressed too. Just hearing the description alone was enough to frighten me. The emperor's wrath is not something that can be easily appeased with mere flattery or charm. The 9th princess waved her hand. It wasn't only Louis who seemed fairly composed, right? But even he sometimes found himself unable to process things clearly. After leaving the palace, he headed straight to the Greenwood Temple in the capital, and stayed there for 2 full days and nights, sending blessings your way. Not until this morning. It was only this morning that he left the temple to head south for disaster relief. Now everyone in the capital knows, you and your spouse are the perfect couple. That's why the emperor truly took action. It's adding insult to injury. When the night grew deep, I wrapped myself tightly in a cloak. Then I left the palace hall alone. I entered Xiaojing's bedchamber. Xiaojing's personal eunuch never stops me. And as I stepped into the bedchamber, suddenly shut the door behind me. Xiaojing was bathing. In the midst of the hazy steam, I made up my mind and moved with the lightest steps, quietly approached Xiaojing from behind. I sat down and wrapped my arms around his neck from behind to the front. Lu Lang Xiaojing forbids me from calling him my royal brother anymore. Nor does he like it when I address him as your majesty. So I came up with this idea. As soon as the words left my mouth, Xiaojing's upper body stiffened slightly. He slowly turned his head to look at me. With a tone neither warm nor cold, he asked if I was trying to beguile the king. That would depend on whether Lu Lang is willing to be beguiled. Why feel so guilty about it? Xiaojing noticed that I kept my gaze lowered. With a hint of discontent, I remarked that it was because Lu Lang was upset with me. Why would I be angry with you? Since Lu Lang asked me to explain, it means he is willing to trust me. I paused for a moment. So what I'm saying is that I was accidentally pushed out by someone. It was a dagger, and it just happened to sway in front of me. Lu Lang would believe me, wouldn't he? I spoke while using my fingertips, painted with a delicate pink polish, gently scratching Xiaojing's shoulder, thinking to myself that I was becoming increasingly improper. I couldn't see Xiaojing's expression. I could only sense his continued cold demeanor, feeling slightly anxious while waiting for his response. Suddenly, Xiaojing extended his arm, tracing upward along my sleeve. Finally, his warm hand rested on my waist. So it turns out that it's so thin inside. With a single sentence, Xiaojing shattered the ambiguous atmosphere completely. Even when he pulled me into the bath, my mind was still hazy and unclear. I only remembered saying that I had a wound on my body. The imperial physician had said it was okay to touch water. I couldn't help but ask. So it turns out you don't completely disregard me. Xiaojing was patient, gently parting the strands of hair stuck to my neck. The strands were dampened by the sword, but he paid no attention to respond to my words. He suddenly mentioned the name Yi. Say it one more time. Repeat your explanation again. I wouldn't make a mistake either, because it wasn't something made up to begin with. I'll stick to what I said. Considering the bond between Lu Yi and me, it wouldn't be enough to make me take a hit for him. There's still some connection between you and him. Xiaojing's tone carried a faint trace of danger. Affection is not the same as loyalty. Xiaojing's gaze seemed slightly unfocused. It was as if he was pondering whether I was speaking nonsense, or if I was just rambling. Then how do you regard me? I lowered my head. You twisted my dress. I don't want to say you soiled it. Clearly, it was you venting your anger. Xiaojing slightly raised his chin and asked. Lu Lang was eager to hear this at the moment. Xiaojing slightly increased the pressure of his grip on my waist. In a soft voice he said, "You're right about that. I will take my time settling the score. I will take my time to claim everything I want." Suddenly, I regretted willingly stepping into the lion's den tonight. When Xiaojing pressed his lips to the curve of my neck, with the last bit of clarity left in me, I pushed him away. Not here. This isn't the place for that. The desire in Xiaojing's eyes was gradually replaced by a faint smile, which could be seen in certain situations. Like at the Prime Minister's residence. You indeed know what happened that night. I sensed it. Xiaojing seemed eager to relive the moment with me, so I attempted to slip out of his embrace. Unexpectedly, it was surprisingly easy, as if Xiaojing had intentionally let me go. I stepped out of the bath naturally. I expressed my gratitude to His Majesty. He invited me to bathe. I suddenly remembered there were still some matters to attend to. As I was about to leave, Xiaojing stopped me. I instinctively thought he was going to change his mind. I nearly slipped, but Xiaojing caught me firmly. I had no idea when he had come up. Do you plan to leave dripping wet like this? I froze for a moment, watching Xiaojing casually grab a piece of clothing from the rack and wrap it around me. I forgot to mention to you, the Empress Dowager is also quite worried. Make sure to remember this. You should visit her tomorrow. After I agreed, Xiaojing added, when the time comes, no matter what I say to you, you acted as if you were hearing it for the first time. I understood it, but it was incredibly intense. When I returned to my own chamber, the moment I took off the cloak, I suddenly realized that the robe Xiaojing wrapped me in earlier was her imperial dragon robe. Not only did I notice it, the palace maids who were serving also noticed it, though their expressions were subtly different. Yet no one dared to ask an extra question. After all, since the time I got injured, and Xiaojing personally carried me back, rumors quietly started spreading in the palace, but they were quickly suppressed. Xiaojing made sure to put an end to them swiftly. Since it was an improper situation, Xiaojing wouldn't allow the matter to escalate. Even though now it's become something inevitable. When the night deepens and I lay down to sleep, I kept pondering over it, but still couldn't understand the meaning behind Xiaojing's final words of advice. So much so that before going to pay respects to the Empress Dowager the next day, I had to apply plenty of powder to my face. Just to cover up the small patches of bruises, the Empress Dowager treated me as kindly as ever, and even asked me to stay a little longer. After some time, Xiao Jing arrived. When the Empress Dowager was present, Xiao Jing acted distant and estranged towards me. But as soon as the Empress Dowager stepped into the inner hall to change her clothes, Xiao Jing began to gaze at me without any restraint. While I lowered my head in silence, he even reached out and pulled me closer to speak. When the sound of footsteps echoed from the inner hall, growing closer and closer, I felt an increasing urge to hide. But Xiao Jing refused to let me escape. He even revealed the truth about the consummation, and I had known all along. But now this is in the Empress Dowager's palace. Other elders are nearby, so I must maintain the terrified demeanor of someone just learning the truth. Xiao Jing released me at this moment. I panicked and hurriedly ran out of the Shokong Palace of the Empress Dowager. As soon as I stepped out of Shokong Palace, I heard the sound of a vase shattering from inside. My heart kept racing for a long time. It wasn't until I sat in the sedan chair leaving the palace that I suddenly realized what had happened. This was exactly Xiao Jing's intention, to let the Empress Dowager hear firsthand about her son's outrageous behavior, and realize that her previous attempts to obstruct Xiao Jing were not only ineffective, but instead provoked him into repeatedly breaking the rules, causing her to feel a growing sense of disappointment towards Xiao Jing. Xiao Jing himself was well aware that once the Empress Dowager understood the lowest limits of her son's behavior, she would no longer dare to interfere with him. As he thought about this, he broke out in a cold sweat. During the days after I returned to the rear mansion, I had a faint sense that Xiao Jing had sent more people to guard me, but my activities were not affected in any way. I continued strolling around wherever I usually went. Day by day time went on. I heard that a concubine-born daughter from the fourth-rank official's family had gotten married. It was the very woman rumored to be the one Lu Yi had feelings for. Lu Yi's turbulent love life made me feel a pang of sympathy. One day I went out to buy some jewelry. By chance I ran into that young lady at the same shop. She gently smiled at me and said, "Oh, the Chancellor's wife is here too." I wanted to strike up a conversation with her. And so, after some back-and-forth exchanges, we both ended up sitting down at a restaurant. Finally, we found a topic to talk about. When I brought up the stories about her and Lu Yi, unexpectedly, she let out a subconscious chuckle, as it was merely a rumor. That isn't entirely true. I became acquainted with the Chancellor's son because I encountered bandits while going out of the capital for a spring outing. It was the Chancellor's son who saved me, and that's how we started interacting. I am genuinely grateful to him, and he also responded in kind. Over time, I did develop feelings for the Chancellor's son. However, the Chancellor himself never expressed any affection for me, so we never made any lifelong promises to each other. But everyone says Lu Yi has his heart set on him. Well, since the person involved is so indifferent, there must be no deeper story. Lu Yi finally returned after completing disaster relief. However, he also brought back a woman from Jiangnan. On the same day, he had her serve tea as a concubine to the Prime Minister and his wife. That woman was gentle and beautiful. The way she looked at Lu Yi was filled with affection. On Lu Yi's first night back, I thought he would stay in the room of that woman. Unexpectedly, he came straight to my place. He sat down and said, "How do you like the things I brought back for you?" "Everything is just fine. They are both beautiful and practical." I smiled and spoke to him. "I haven't had the chance to congratulate you on your newfound lovely concubine." Lu Yi always appeared indifferent. "You seem happier about it than I am. When you have things that satisfy you." "Of course I'm happy." Lu Yi nodded. He asked if I was feeling better. "Do I look like someone who's unwell to you?" Lu Yi remarked that the Prime Minister's residence has been in the spotlight lately. The eldest legitimate son, Lu Yi, was credited for his disaster relief efforts. He got promoted and now holds a position with actual responsibilities, and in the future, he could even inherit the title of nobility. Seems like his prospects are incredibly bright. As for the Prime Minister and his wife, they are now eagerly hoping for some news from my belly. A perfect double blessing. The outcome was something they never in their wildest dreams expected. The first news to arrive was about Lu Yi and me deciding to separate. The couple from the Prime Minister's residence assumed Lu Yi had favored his concubine over his family. which angered me deeply, nearly leading to him being forced to kneel in the ancestral hall for a long time. But I repeatedly clarified that the separation was a decision Louis and I made after careful consideration. It wasn't just a moment of impulsiveness. Only then did Louis avoid being punished by family rules. On the day of the separation, Louis in the morning personally helped me place the pearl hairpin he had once won back for me, and said, "Wishing you a happy marriage. I will no longer arrange a marriage for you again." I looked at Louis in the mirror and said, "If you truly care for someone, you might encounter challenges in continuing the story. The palace will step in at the time. The palace never owed me anything to begin with. You are the same as Louis." The news of my separation from Louis spread throughout the capital in less than a day. For a time all kinds of gossip were circulating, until it was heard that the Empress Dowager had left the palace and gone to the temple to recuperate. Only then did they shift their focus to a new topic of discussion. I followed her to the temple, staying by the Empress Dowager's side, serving her with utmost care. At first, the Empress Dowager was unwilling to pay any attention to me. She even refused to let me approach her divine presence. But day after day, I accompanied her in reciting scriptures and observing a vegetarian diet. Eventually, she could no longer keep up her cold demeanor. One time, she sighed at me and said, "You have no idea how treacherous the palace can be." I know, I truly understand. I once lived in the palace for several years, yet I still find it hard to let go of Xiao Jing. It is only now that I realize the depth of my feelings for Xiao Jing. Just like how I understood his obsession with me only after I got married. It wasn't long after. Xiao Jing sent a letter through a palace servant. It contained only a few words. "My wife is not gone, but he may return," and I did not reply. I merely asked someone to deliver a handkerchief to him. During this period of time, a piece of joyful news has arrived from the capital. Louis has remarried. The bride is a young woman he brought back from the south. She was originally the daughter of a provincial governor, but she injured her head during an encounter with river pirates. Without any memories, I ended up following Louis all the way back. I gave Louis many congratulatory gifts. To my surprise, the gifts he returned were double in amount. He said it was to extend his congratulations to me as well. In the second year of Xiao Jing's reign, he issued an edict to officially title me as the Empress. Even the Empress's ceremonial seal was delivered right to me. A worker came to report. The preparations for the enthronement ceremony were already complete. They were only waiting for me to get fully ready. I quietly asked the worker about the political climate in the previous court. The worker honestly explained, saying that indeed there were differing opinions in the previous court. They argued that a woman who had been married before could not ascend to the central palace as empress. After all, there had never been a precedent for this. Moreover, some bold officials directly questioned Xiao Jing. Did he take Chunqi by force? Xiao Jing refuted the accusations entirely with just 3 statements. First, the Wei family was the daughter of the duke. The descendants of those who achieved great merit had been married before. Is not sufficient to be a reason preventing him from taking the position of the central palace. Secondly, the Wei family and the one from the chancellor's residence have already divorced. Where does the claim of Chunqi even come from? However, since there is no precedent, then this will serve as the precedent for the future. The coronation ceremony itself is a solemn affair. Xiao Jing went out of his way to add quite a few extra touches, even the beads on the phoenix crown. He had them add several more. After the intricate and ceremonial rituals were completed, it was time for the wedding night. I truly never expected to share a wedding night with the same man twice. What sets this apart is, this time I took advantage of his inattention and blindfolded him with a silk ribbon.